today you're here to learn how to increase your feminine energy, right? And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to be in this space where you're now looking to increase, you're now looking to expand, you're now ready for the next step. What I want to do today is I want to give you some really good information that you can digest, and I want to give you information that you can kind of look at and say, okay, well, how does this fit in my life? How does this apply to me? How does this apply to where I am, where I'm going, who I've been, what the past has been like, and what was wrong in the past? I want to be able to get you some traction, right? Because that's the big testimony, and that's the big testament to how we're doing in life. You know, learning is great, but the application is the only thing that matters once you learn, right? You know better, so you what? You do better, okay? So thank you so much for joining me today. I am Jamila Osset, and I am the Divine Feminine Growth Goddess. And here is what you can expect today. You're welcome, which we kind of already dove into. You're going to get the overview, which I'm doing right now to just kind of give you an understanding of what this will look like and what we'll be going through for today. You're going to get the course material, and the course material is going to be delivered just simply straightforward. If you have any questions while I am delivering the material, then by all means, please type your questions in the chat box, and I will go through them periodically as things come up. And I will also go through them at the end of class, okay? Then you're going to get a special offer, because every single time I offer any type of class, it is a responsibility of mine to make sure I offer you support tools that can help you to achieve whatever it is that I am teaching. It's almost like when you go into, when you meet up with Bae, and you and Bae are kissing and hugging, and things are getting hot and heavy. Things are getting hot and heavy. But the problem is that after they get hot and heavy, everyone just kind of goes their merry way. And nothing goes beyond that, right? I don't want to do you like that. I want to make sure that I give you your finish, so that you can actually feel really good about having accomplished whatever it is that you are looking to accomplish in this particular point in your life. And then last but not least, then we go through any questions that you guys may have. We can sit and chat, and we can just go free flow, okay? So unlike any of my other classes, this class is not going to be as extensive. So please carve out probably about maybe another 40 minutes for this particular class. Usually my classes are about an hour and a half, around there, right, Brenda? Probably about an hour and a half long. But this one is about an hour long. So if you could go ahead and just craft out 40 minutes more of your day, and then make sure that any questions you have, again, that you ask in the chat box. All right? All right. And Ebony says, I can't hear anything. Can someone type, Ebony, that the volume, she would have to turn up her own speaker volume? Okay, Brenda says, I've saved space for the course, so I am good. That makes me believe that my courses are extremely long. That my workshops are extremely long, because Brenda's been on quite a few of them. So, yeah, perfect. And I'll just go ahead and, I'm gonna message Ebony. Okay, I'm just gonna message her. Okay, great. Okay, So let's go ahead and get started. Now, I'm going to see if I can do a couple of things while I am. Okay. Okay, great. So, and thank you all for bearing with me. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. What I'd like to do first is go ahead and start with a little introduction. As always, allow me to introduce myself. My name's Jamila. Jamila, the growth goddess. Okay, I am Jamila Osset. I'm the divine feminine growth goddess. And for the past 6 years, I have been working with women who are on a die-hard mission to change everything about their life. I started off in the game working with young girls. I worked with young girls in elementary school. I worked with young girls in high school. I've worked with young girls in very, very many capacities. And I was like, I'm not doing enough, right? I am not operating in the fullness of my gift and in the fullness of the divine purpose that I have on this earth to be a catalyst, to be an activator, to help women or just people who are struggling with confidence. I knew that there was more that I was supposed to do, and I wasn't supposed to be spending my whole entire day or night teaching history. I knew that. And so I started kind of getting curious about what I could do, what my contribution would be, and how I would ultimately serve, right? So when I started to get curious about what to do and how I could serve, I got kind of curious about serving in the capacity of enrichment services, right? And so I opened this whole entire program called Camp Butterfly Bella. And Camp Butterfly Bella was a program that was designed to help girls understand that they are evolving and that they are beautiful, even in the evolution process. You know, a lot of the girls who I worked with, they had stories of being bullied and being mistreated and not speaking up for themselves. And what I sought to do was to really create a dynamic for them, by which they could just come and be self, be fully operational self, be fully operational loving, and really, really see how valuable they are, right? Because that's a really big part. Are you all still here with me? Uh-oh, did I mess something up? Okay, great. That's a really big part. You all still here with me? Okay, great. Thank you so much. I thought I messed something up. That's a really big part of our experience as women, right? Our experience as girls growing up. What messages are we being told? Are people saying to us, you're smart? Are people saying to us, you're capable? Are people saying to us, you're strong enough to do this and you can? Or are people saying, you're a burden and it's really hard to take care of you? And, I really wish I didn't have to do this. Like, all of the messages you receive in childhood, those things translate to the life that you live in adulthood. And what I wanted to do with Camp Bella was to really create a program by which I could get to that foundation and help build a strong foundation for those young girls, right? And so that is what I did. And doing it was magical. It was absolutely positively magical. It was the first work that I'd ever done in my life that did not feel like work. It did not feel like work. It felt like I was honoring my entire soul by giving to these young girls in this particular way. It felt like an honor. And we did the work and we were doing it year after year. But after a few years, we noticed a trend. We would work with these girls for a particular amount of time on a particular issue, and then the strange thing would happen. The next year, they'd have a lot of the same kind of limitations and the same kind of fears and the same kind of insecurities. And so I got curious because I don't play around with children. I'm very adamant about honoring children. And so I got curious enough to go into investigation mode. And, I went to the parents and I'm like, look, do I need to go to the schools and I need to sit down and talk to you because this is what I'm experiencing from Michaela. This is what I'm experiencing from Melissa. Like, these are the experiences and I just need to know what's going on. And when I sat down and talked to a lot of these moms, do you know what I found? I learned a lot of the limitations and mental blocks were actually coming from the moms. They were actually coming from the mothers. They were actually coming from these women who were raising the girls and were raising them in a way to where their insecurities were trickling over. Okay, their limitations and everything that their mothers or their grandmothers had told them that they couldn't do or wouldn't be able to do or taught them to be afraid of were the things that were coming into their own experience. And this is the thing. This is a side note, but just one that I want you to understand really from my heart. When it comes to our experience as human beings, very often we are living experiences that are extensions of the people that came before us. Very often that's what it is. And this is historically. Remember, I mentioned to you all that before I did life coaching and before I served as the growth goddess, I was a teacher and teaching history. And when you look in history, when you look back and you just take a look at different civilizations and different societies across the world, you'll see that for a really long time, people who came from families where they were bread makers, they had children that were bread makers. They had grandchildren who then went on to become bread makers. When you come from a family of painters, then everyone in the family paints. When you come from these family dynamics, they continue to extend over and over and over again from generation to generation to generation. And it's one of the reasons why learning about things like enslavement, when you know the energy behind it, it's so hard. It's so hard. You're talking about a whole entire generations of people who've come from the concept of stripping families, breaking up families, and one person goes there, one person goes here. It's not a coincidence that you see the same kind of trend generations and generations forward. Okay, it's not a trend. So it's the same thing when it comes to women and when it comes to femininity and when it comes to all the things, woman and evolution, right? So even in my own personal experience, I remember, growing up and hearing things like, you know, you better be careful or someone's going to do something to you, this kind of fear around being sexually assaulted. And I had I had my own experience with sexual assault, as a teenager. And the thing about it is that I just had a conversation with one of the women in our Facebook group about this a month ago because she grew up in the same type of family dynamic where people put fear in her heart about being sexually assaulted. And she's a grandmother now, and she's been doing that with her grandchild. And I said, you absolutely have to stop. I said, this is detrimental. This message that you're sending, it's detrimental. It's not healthy. And she said, well, you don't think that me telling her about the possibilities, is helpful. I said, what would be more helpful is for you to empower her and tell her that she is always safe. She's always safe. And that she knows how to keep herself safe. and that God is always extending a hand to protect her. She is always protected. She's always safe. The messages, right? The messages that we've been digesting, that we've been chewing on, that we've been subject to, those messages, they get impressed into our being, and they carry with us going forward. Okay? So when it comes to messages, some of the times the messages that you might be carrying forward are not even your own messages. They're not even your own messages. They're messages that have come from women 4 generations behind you. You're still connected to those women. Just because you never met your great, 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 great grandmother or your great, 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 great aunt does not mean that you are not connected to those women. I tell people all the time that I am honored to live this life that I live, where I decide to live to 101. And people are like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "So I have this great, great aunt. You know, I go home, I'm from Trinidad, and I go home every year for my great great aunt's birthday. This year she turned 101. She turned 101 this year. Okay? And through spending time with her, this is the woman who nurtured me as a very small child. Spending time with her, I've learned how to live exactly that long if I choose to. And that's something that she's giving to me as a gift. Her life is my gift. I'm very, very connected to her. And the reality is that we are all very connected to certain women in our family, whether you know them or not. That's why it's so important to kind of get curious about your history, to get curious about the women who came before you, what they did, because sometimes the trends in your life, and I would, not to be eerie, but I would bet that if we searched far enough back in your family history, we would find that there is 1 to 2 women whose lives have matched yours, whose struggles have matched yours, whose wins have matched yours. You know, you may be a woman with 2 children and you had both of them back to back, and we would look back in the history and find that there was at least 1 to 2 women with the exact situation. You might have moved out of your, neighborhood at 21 years old. She moved at 21. You might have had a bae that you were in love with the whole high school time. She might have had a bae she was in love with the whole entire college time. These women in our lives who are not even in our lives, we've been impressed with messages. We've been impressed with so many beautiful things, so many beautiful things. Very often, and I want you to get this part too, when we sit back and we look at, wow, this person injected this into my head, this person did this person said that, and now I grew up believing this. I want you to understand a lot of the things that we have been impressed and subject to believe have been things that have come as a result of fear. Okay? The people who were impressed with those things were doing it because ultimately there was a desire to protect you from the things that they might have gone through. They're trying to protect. They're trying to keep you safe. They're trying to tell you what someone didn't tell them. But very often the way it works is instead of it serving in that purpose, what it does is it plants a seed that then creates an experience that then creates the fear that they were trying to avoid in the first place. Is any of this resonating with you? Okay, great. I am looking at all these comments. Yes. All right. Mary said yes. Yes. Latorsha says words speak life. Brenda says yes. I made some mistakes trying to keep my girls and grandkids. And that's the thing, Brenda. When we make mistakes in doing these things, there is atonement for our mistakes. Making a mistake it's not the end all be all. When you make a mistake, trust me, baby, there are recourses and measures that you can take to undo all the mistakes that you've made and more. I promise you. That's the beautiful thing about this healing process. That's the beautiful thing about the divine feminine energy, okay? And I want to honor your time. I don't want to keep you because I know that there's so much that I can say on this subject. But what I am going to say, and then, make an attempt to move on, is that in the moments that I realized that my camp, my camp attendees were holding on to their moms and their grandmothers' fears, I immediately shifted and put my attention on the moms. Immediately. And I said, I am, and this was a big, bold decision, but I'm going to migrate my business and I'm going to move from serving these girls to serving women in mass, serving women. Because if there's nothing else that I can say about who I am and how I show up, I will say that the way that I show up is my energy, my being, and my strengths are really, really centered around evolution, growth, and evolution. Being in my divine feminine energy has given me access to owning that, to recognizing it, and using it in a way that makes sense and is healthy for the globe, for the world. Okay, so I switched from that space of operating with girls, and I switched over to serving women. And that has been really, really beautiful. It's been a really beautiful and honorable journey. I will say that it's not always easy because very often a lot of the women who I've served, we're just now building the foundations for them to see how important they are, for them to see the crown on their head, for them to see themselves as a queen, as a goddess. So it's not always easy because, for someone who knows how important they are, then they immediately, you offer them a beautiful meal and they sit down to eat. They're like, duh, I'm supposed to have this meal. I'm supposed to have this. Of course. Yes. Serve me. Thank you. But for people who haven't always known that and are kind of stepping into it a little scared, a little hesitant, right? A little fearful, then sometimes it takes baby steps. It takes a lot of baby steps to help women understand how vital and how important they are. There's so many women, and I just talked about this on another class, who walk into the store to go buy something for themselves and end up buying for someone else, right? That means that there's something missing in terms of that self-love and that value. If I don't see myself as valuable, then I won't be able to help the hundreds and thousands of women that I help. I won't be able to help them if I don't see myself as valuable. How can I help myself if I don't see myself as valuable? How can I help my family? How can I help anyone? How can I do anything if I don't see the value in myself? If I don't see the value in myself. And it's one of the things that the students learn in the compassion course, how to love and value self, how to increase self-worth, so that when someone gives to you, you're not rejecting what they're giving and saying, no, thank you. I don't need it. No, it's okay. Stop. Stop. Let's move forward. Let's move forward. And I do this work because of my own journey, because I've had to work myself out of being stuck. I've had to work myself out, my own self out in understanding what feminine energy was. I was raised by women who were aggressive, who were masculine, who would attack you and be happy to go sit in jail after that. I was raised by wolves. I was raised by people who enjoyed fighting. They fought. They fought. And they didn't care about the damage that was done. So it's taken me a really long time to get to a place where I can understand feminine energy. As a matter of fact, when I first started trying to learn how to be feminine, it was a disaster. So I decided that I really wanted to work around being feminine because I came into a place in my life where I understood I understood what it meant to be feminine versus masculine. And I was like, oh, I definitely need that in my life. I definitely need all of this yummy energy of femininity just dancing through my life. Give it to me now, right? So what I did naturally, Jamila, the growth goddess, what I did was I I was teaching at a vision. I teach this vision board workshop, really creating your goals for the year, um, really getting an understanding of, like, you know, who you are and what you're here to do and blah 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 blah, right? And so I had this vision board workshop that I was teaching, and I decided to go ahead and create my own vision board prior to the vision board workshop. And that vision board that I created was a vision board on femininity. You know, I was like, this is what I want to just focus on, and this is what I want to learn about. And so I'm going to make a vision board, and I'm going to make it on being feminine, right? And when I look back at that particular vision board, when I look back at all those things, I realize that I had no idea what femininity was. And this is, I'm gonna do something a little, I'm gonna switch it up, y'all. So y'all go ahead, y'all work with me, okay? Can you see my screen? Wait. Okay. Let's see. Gonna see how I can do this, guys. Or ladies, queens, and goddesses. I want to show you something, but I swear. Okay, so let's see how I can do this. Are you guys ready? All right, so this is what happens when you try to be fancy. You feel me? This is what happens. Now there's a nope. Okay, give me one moment. Okay. Great. Still with me. Stay with me. Okay, great. Stay with me. Okay. Okay. For the love of God. Okay. Apparently, it's just not meant for me to be able to pull this up on you guys' screen. So please forgive me for not being technology savvy enough to make it happen, Captain. Okay? But what I would be more than happy to do, and can you all hear me still? Can you hear me still? Okay, great. Great. So apparently I can't make it happen. I can't make it share, but I was going to show you all the video. And if you want to watch this video, then by all means, join us in the Goddess Mastermind, and I will tag you to the video so you can see the video. But the video was created in 2017, and in this particular video, you will see me at the vision board event that I was hosting, the workshop that I was leading. And my board, which is a board that was supposed to be about femininity. I created this board, and the board was supposed to be about, really increasing my feminine energy. And when I tell you that every image on this board was some over-sexualized, ridiculous shenanigan that had to do with so-called femininity. And when I started to learn more about feminine energy, I was like, oh my God, this whole entire time, this is bogus. This is bogus. So I attempted to learn in 2019, and since then things have evolved drastically. So let's go ahead and kind of talk about the history, because that is the only thing that is relevant. Okay, the three things that I'm going to talk to you about are what you've been taught to believe about femininity, how those teachings have affected us, and the plight of the modern woman. Okay, so let's start with what you've been taught to believe about femininity. Everything that you've been taught to believe about femininity has had to do with men's rendition of what feminine mean. That is the nook and cranny of what we've been taught to believe that femininity is based off of. A man's definition, okay? And let's go ahead and talk about the words associated with femininity. The words that are usually associated with femininity are words like soft, words like gentle, right? Words like meek. Even meek is associated with femininity, okay? Sensuality, even seduction, all associated with this concept, this Western male-centric concept of femininity. And those things are bogus. Those things are actually capital B, bogus. They're bogus. That is not what femininity is. That is not what femininity was created to represent. And those things do not define who or how we are as women. Okay? Very often when people think about increasing femininity, they think, well, I have to be soft, or I have to, talk like this, or I have to be like that. And the truth is that that's not the standard, okay? And let me just break it down for you in this way. When it comes to our grandmothers, when it comes to the women in the beginning of time, the women who were the first ones in indigenous societies, when we look at what we know about those indigenous societies, what's missing from those women is that concept, that patriarchal definition, that patriarchal perception of femininity. Those women were free, right? So these are the new words. The new words that we want to enter into the discussion about femininity, okay? Those women were free. Those women were resilient. Those women were charismatic. Those women were healed. Those women were intuitive. Those women were wise. Those women were healthy. Those women were guided. Do you see what I just did there? What I'm doing is I want to just show you what we've been brainwashed to believe versus absolutely versus what is respected. Come on now. Change it, or not even changing the narrative, but let's expose. Let's actually expose and talk about what the reality is. Let's look at history. These women were not weak. They sat in councils and led the men, and the men created space for themselves to be led. The men created space. The men said, come in because I understand who you are and how connected you are to the divine. Do you know that when it comes to certain spiritual and religious cultures, that when women are on their period, they can't go into those tents, they can't go into the sanctuary? And guess what? It's not because they're dirty. It's not because the religion is saying you're dirty or you're tainted. The actual reason that they couldn't go in is because the power of their divinity, the power of their divinity is so potent at that time. The power of their divinity is so strong that they could walk into a sanctuary and mess everybody's energy up, right? And I am attempting to give you the information and stay as close to what you need to know as possible without bombarding you and without overloading everything. But when it comes to the modern woman has been taught to believe that her cycle is something that's annoying. Her cycle is something that's irritating. Her cycle is something negative. And the reality is your cycle, that power, right? That power is one of the strongest forces on this earth, because guess what? We all know it's life force. We all know that it brings babies. It brings life. The womb brings all those things forward. The womb. So therefore, it could never be a point of annoyance. It could never be a point. I talked to one of my former clients yesterday, and she said, that she has not had a cycle since December. And she only just started to do research on it to realize that things have been thrown off hormonally with her body. I honor my cycle because I know that it's the one thing that separates me from the millions of men who are disconnected. Men are not connected in the way that we are. Women are connected, and naturally, our femininity is in the essence of who we are. And because of how potent our energy has been, because of how scary it has been for men, it's been pretty scary for men, women. Let's talk about the fear that men have had, right? Because men didn't just get up and decide, you know what? It looks like a great day for us to start brainwashing women into believing that they're weak. What happened is that in the beginning of our cultures, our Western cultures, in the beginning, you have this great migration of people coming over into the West, coming over into the US and coming over into the islands and different things like that. And when you have that great migration, the way that things worked is everyone lived in a regular society and a community and worked together and etc. And I want you to just imagine that in this indigenous kind of society, this original kind of civilization, you have men and women marrying, and women having children, and women taking care of households, and women cooking food, and women doctoring the sick, and women doing this, and women teaching classes, and women sewing clothes, and women, and women doing so much. And after a few cycles of women doing so much, there were some women who started to say, you know what? I see all that these women have been doing, and I'm actually not even interested in doing all the things that these women have been doing. I'm not even interested. No, thank you. Thanks, but no thanks. Okay? And so you have historically, you see a stream of women pulling away from society, choosing instead of living in this society where they have to do so much work or they have to nurture children or bear children, and they looking at so many women dying from having kids because back in that time, of course, doctoral procedures were different. They're looking at all these things and they're saying, no, I'm just going to go ahead and move out to the woods. I'm going to go ahead and live on my own. Go ahead and live by myself with the earth. I feel like I could make it. I feel like I could be great. I'll actually be better off not having a husband. Thanks for the offer, but no thanks. I'm going to just go ahead and do my own thing, right? And that's what these women started to do. They started to move out of the societies and out of the communities. And as they moved out of the societies and other women saw them, then they were like, wait a minute, we can get up and leave. We don't have to do this. We don't have to live in this system. We don't have to operate by someone else's rules. We don't have to. We have the choice to leave. And so you see this wave of women moving outside of the paradigms of the community, moving outside of the constraints of society and choosing to do things that just work better for them. And something really crazy happened. What happened was that the men woke up and said, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. We got about 15 women moved out. But what if all the women left us and we didn't have any women here? What the fuck? We need to do something and we need to do it now. Get in action. Somebody, let's come up with a plan, right? And so in that moment, a lot of things shifted. And the first classification that we see coming out of that time period was the classification that we now know today as the word witch. 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 What we find is that if we look back at the history, we then see a whole lot of deaths of women. Women being burned alive in the name of being a witch. In the name of being a witch, in the name of all that is turning away from society and community and choosing to live an independent lifestyle, you will now be branded as a witch. Because you chose to trust the earth more than you chose to trust the human beings, you will be branded as a witch. Because you choose to live a wild and free, guided lifestyle where you rely on your intuition to tell you what herbs to use from the earth, where you decide not to take a husband, where you decide that you are the most important being in your life and that you choose not to bear any children or bring any children into this world. We will brand you and we will call you a witch. What is a witch anyways? So scary. You tell someone that you're a witch and then they get scared, right? And they get scared because of the connotation associated with witch, because these women were burned. These women were killed. These women were killed in the name of being a witch, and we can't even fully define that. If you look up the definition of witch, it says, a woman thought to have magical powers, especially evil ones, popularly depicted as wearing a black cloak and a pointed hat and flying on a broomstick. Is that realistic? Is that really it? Or is it the concept of a woman who's a wise woman who's chosen to rely on her intuition, on her magic, on her individuality, on loving herself, free woman. Absolutely. Latorsha says they were free and healers. Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me tell you why women felt the need to do that. Let me tell you why so many women felt the need to move outside of the paradigms of society. It comes a lot from our origins. And in the origin of us, in the origin of woman, the way that we lived, our natural indigenous way of living our life was in a place where we were connected to the earth. That is natural for us. It is natural for us to spend time with the river, spend time with the earth, spend time in the sand, spend time at the sea, spend time with natural elements, sitting by the fire, creating fire, singing songs, chanting, being with our sisters. Those are all things that are natural to us. Healing is natural to us. Nurturing is natural to us. Community is natural to us. But the modern woman has been plucked from these natural indigenous experiences. Plucked. We don't go and bathe with our sister at the river. We don't go and sing ceremonial songs. We're not spending hours and hours sitting together by a fire cooking for each other. We're not spending the time doing that. We've been disconnected for hundreds of years, with no recourse. And that is why there is this cry now. That's why the modern woman now is in a place in life where she is reaching and searching because she is tired of being bamboozled and told that her body isn't good enough. She's tired of looking at all these definitions of femininity and realizing that that doesn't have anything to do with her. That doesn't have anything to do with who she is. It doesn't have anything to do with who she is becoming. So in the space of that history, women were not only burned and killed for being free and resilient and whole and healthy and guided and intuitive, but not only that, there is a mass campaign to then get women to turn against each other. To turn against each other and report women as witches. To turn them in. If you know a witch, turn her in. We see that women came into a point in history where they stopped trusting each other. The Western woman stopped trusting other women, looking to the left and looking to the right and realizing that it's just her. She can't rely on anyone else but herself. That is the transition of what happened. That is when the disconnect, because we all know that the only way that you destroy any movement is by keeping the unity, keeping the people from unifying. That is how you destroy any movement. Where there is unity and where there are numbers, there's change. But where there's fear and disconnect, no change can exist. So that is the nook and cranny of our history as women. And in regards to the concept of really getting to a place where you can increase your feminine energy, there is one thing that is going to guide. There's one thing that can help with that healing, to lay a foundation for that healing. And that is a deep dive into self by way of your sisters. See, this is the thing about our relationship with our sisters. Our sisters are our catalysts for nurture and compassion. Our sisters give us access to the parts of us that we've been restricted from. The parts of us that our grandmothers and our mothers have struggled to extend, that part is the part that your sisters, the women around you, the women that you attract around you, the women that are in your tribe, those women. Your sisters are valuable. Your sisters are valuable. And your sisters pave the way for you to increase the feminine energy, for you to return to the origins, for you to return to who you are, for you to remember all that you are. So I told you all that I would not you, but I didn't promise, and thank you, God, that I did not promise. Woo! Thank you, God. But because you're here, I want to just remind you of a few things. You're here because you've been doing it on your own for far too long. Okay? For way too long, you have been doing a lot of the things just on your own. You've been trying to figure things out. You've been trying to understand this thing that we know as energy. You're trying to put together the different pieces and really understand law of attraction and use it to your advantage and get in alignment and deal with your chakras and deal with the things that you were told that you couldn't do and all the scars and all the wounds. You're really ready to learn how to heal once and for all. Like, enough is enough. I'm ready to release the baggage. And you know it's time for you to build a tribe of women who love and support you. That's a big deal. And let me ask, who has a tribe? Okay? When I say tribe, I know it means different things to different people. But tell me about your tribe. Got a tribe? If you don't, it's okay. It's okay. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. It says, me and Mary are part of each other's tribe. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. All right, Brenda says, I'm beginning to build it. That's beautiful. And that is the catalyst. That is the step. That's when you go forward into the space of healing through the tribe, right? I mean, if we were all living in indigenous society, we would be coming through rites of passage programs. We would be